Hey, I want to say thank you everybody for coming again tonight, and everybody that's out on Facebook Live. Thank you for showing up there. I know that the weather is kind of iffy. It's the bipolarness of Oklahoma. And for those of you that are in Africa watching, thank you for showing up. You guys don't have to worry about that because it's nice there. It's like Florida weather all the time. So just want to say thank you to everybody for coming tonight to hear Joshua speak. And I've had the privilege of getting to know him over the last couple of months. And every single time I sit down and talk with him, I learn something. Every single time I sit down and talk with him, he asks questions that will always blow my mind. And it's hard to do for me. So I'm very appreciative of him. We were supposed to have a nonprofit come tonight. They are coming.
They're just coming toward the end instead of the beginning.
Okay, perfect. So they will come and share that. So Josh, thanks for coming, bro. Appreciate you.
Thank you so much, Roger.
Absolutely. All right, take it away.
Thank you for the introduction. Thank you. Thanks to folks all over, wherever you are. Now, the very first thing we're going to do is a little interesting. Roger mentioned I like to get folks thinking. So, do you guys want to see me time travel? All right. You guys are all here too. I just did it. I traveled a few seconds into the future. Now, right. What I'm really getting at is for folks online, folks that might watch a recording of this later, I would recommend that you find about 3 other people to do this with you. There'll be a couple interactive parts, and having 2 to 4 people would definitely be helpful and help you get more out of it. So, traveling into the future, the people that are watching this in the future will be hearing it now. Anyway, let's see. I think we have a bit of a maverick in the room. There is a young man named Maverick. He may or may not have some headphones on.
Maverick,
you're being cold. Come on.
he said no.
No? It ain't working. All right, well, I'll come to him, I suppose. But we have some blue Maverick playing cards for Mr. Maverick.
Ah, very nice.
Where is he at?
He's embarrassed.
Please deliver them to Maverick for me, Mr. Titan. And Titan, would you mind handing out 2 or 3 cards to the rest of the folks over here? 2 or 3, yeah. Thank you, sir. So, again, I mentioned that this is a little bit interactive. I'm not just up here to be one-sided, sage on the stage. So, and I want you guys to actually answer questions, right, when I ask you, as opposed to just throwing out rhetorical questions. When's the last time you did something for the first time? Any takers? Megan?
I feel like it's a trick question.
Ah.
I know I went to Cameroon
Did you get
for the
everybody?
first time.
Really?
Nope, I didn't get any.
Uh-oh.
You missed this side of the room, bro.
You picked 3 people to get a card.
A card?
You picked 3 people.
No, you can give everybody 2
Roger and I were talking about this, not giving out clear instructions, failure to communicate, try to get rid of all of them. Keep giving out cards till they're all gone.
All right.
So he may be circulating. And in the meantime, Megan, you were saying last time you did something for the first time, trick question, tell me more.
Tell you more. I shook your hand for the first time tonight.
Oh, that's right. And then you shook my right hand for the first time,
Yes,
too.
as well.
The first one was the left hand. Anybody else?
I went ski shooting for the first time Friday.
Skeet shooting. Very cool. Where was that?
Out in Luther.
In Luther, okay.
Land up there.
Cool. Anybody else?
I played pickleball for the first time last night. Ooh.
Pickleball.
Yeah, it was fun.
Yeah, they were telling me about it that at the Y just today. It was cool? I don't think I've ever played it. It's like a cross between ping pong and tennis.
Yeah, halfway between.
Nice. All right. So, does everybody have a card? Almost, maybe. We're getting there. What's something unusual you can do with a playing card?
If I get enough, I can build a house.
If you get enough, you can build a house.
Something I can do, or it could be.
Either way, yeah.
You know those guys on YouTube that flip like
Oh,
playing cards
yeah.
on the door, or like in this new paper clips?
Sure.
Yeah, they do like $1 million.
That's crazy. That's awesome.
Yeah.
Or you can put it on a bicycle.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
People that know that.
Put it in the spokes and make the little noisemaker thing? Yeah. Okay. So, everyone take their playing card and hold it, the portrait? No, landscape. Okay? And put your thumbs, just one. Put your thumbs at the top, thumb and forefinger,
Just one card, right?
just one card. Ready? After I do it, you guys do it right after me. 3, 2, 1. Now, how many of you have ever done that before? One? Huh. So you still have a first time. This wasn't your first time, but everybody else, that was their first time. And if you guys were online and did that, thank you, because that would have been really cool. We wouldn't know. All right. So feel free to play with these throughout the rest of the talk. This is just to get us thinking about different possibilities, thinking outside the box, right? And this talk is, I think Roger did a nice intro for me. Thank you, Roger. We're talking about the ABCs of competition. And what if we're thinking about it a little differently than maybe we could? So as we go along, we'll do things a little unorthodox, and I may stop with little surprises. Let's see, I think Megan was the first one to speak. Did she run away? Are you all done? Thank you! Here, good sir, you get a prize. Almost.
We don't play sports yet.
Yeah. And since Megan was the first one to talk, and she happens to be married to this guy, which is a coincidence. It could have been anyone. All right, she gets the little door prize. Here you go. And I think you, sir, got a significant speaking role in our show. So here's something for you. And I will continue to throw candy at people until we run out of candy. And remind me if I forget. So let's see, where were we? ABCs of competition. We're going to start with C and work our way toward A. And because our three main points are C, B, and A, I don't feel like I need to display it, right? Because everyone can remember that. And why is this important? Well, you'll definitely, hopefully, figure it out as we go. But if you're thinking about competition in like a C company, and we'll introduce that in just a moment, then I would offer that perhaps you're leaving a lot on the table, or maybe there's a lot more that you could be gleaning from competition. And what's your word of the year, Roger?
Collaboration.
Prosthetic. Remember, collaboration. We will come back to that. So, let's see. We'll pick a person and you'll get compensated. So, who wants to? All right. Sir, tell me about the competition. Your competition.
My competition is typically other home inspectors.
Other home inspectors. And what was your name, sir?
Wade.
Wade. So Wade, at the beginning of our talk, is telling us that his competition is other home inspectors, right? And so I guess Wade, you do home inspections.
Correct.
Yeah, and other people are doing home inspections. And so certainly more than one person would like to get that job, right? All right, let's see. So, and there's nothing wrong with any of these ways of thinking. A C-type company, actually, before I get too much further along, we'll do a little unorthodox stuff. How many of you guys carry around an iPad in your pocket?
No, we got one broke.
Me? I'm the only one?
Big pocket.
Huh? Big pocket? Yeah. So, a C-type company, I'm just going to put a little clock on one of these tables so I can see how long I've been gabbing at you guys. A C-type company is, I think, Wade, kind of like Wade described. They see the competition as a physical business for another person, right? And what would be another example of maybe a person or a company, and it can be super simple. Ways. I got more, Ken?
Tao's got one.
Huh?
I'm trying to think, the competition that I kind of like aim to be myself. I want to be a better version of myself each day.
What was your name?
Tao?
Tao?
Yeah.
So Tao is saying that she, and correct me if I'm wrong, that you're competing against yourself. So you want to be a better version of yourself each day. Okay. So if Wade or Matthew were thinking like Tao, then maybe they would view themselves as their own competition? Did I give you a piece of candy? You gotta remind me. Here, you can have two because I forgot.
Oh, dude.
I know. You're welcome. You're welcome. Yeah, that's right. We could get into intrinsic motivation and extrinsic motivation, couldn't we? By the way, while I'm thinking about it, this, let's see, Roger's over there. This looks like a pretty normal playing card. And it is. It just happens to have some cuts in it. And it's going to be hard for everyone to see this, but when you cut it and fold it, it changes your perspective. And it looks radically different, but it's just a normal playing card. Right? 3 little cuts. How many folds? Maybe it's only 2 folds. What do you think? Different, right? Just thinking differently, And we'll see if this works. Sometimes it does, sometimes it doesn't. How many of you have seen a playing card used as a top?
Never.
Thinking differently. Tao
Yes.
was saying that she used the competition as herself. And that's great. That brings us to a B-type company. So that's a step toward A, right? A C-type company views other C-type companies as their competition. And a B-type company views themselves as their own competition. And so they want to be a better version of themselves tomorrow. And they're less concerned with what other people are doing or other companies are doing. So, for some more candy, what examples of B-type companies?
People that create like entertainment.
Ah, Nice catch. Okay, so you might say, he said Amazon. You might say that Amazon is competing with themselves. They're not necessarily looking to beat Walmart, right? They want to be a better version of themselves. Anyone else? Yes, Titan. He's what we're gaming.
Tesla.
Tesla! Awesome! Megan says they're not doing sports yet. So it's a pass. Who is doing sports? Anybody sports?
Is chasing chickens count?
Hey, they counted for Rocky, right?
Yeah.
Right, right.
Balboa.
We're looking at the sports.
Looking into that? Okay. Now, again, I'll take after Roger a little bit and just go on wild, silly, fun tangents to keep us guessing. Now, don't freak out, because this is really kind of a joke. How many of you are packing? And you don't have to answer that, because you probably don't really want to know. But, what if I had more fun things in my pockets?
What?
What? Just to, keep you thinking outside the box.
The Duck Hunt. That's a Nintendo one. That's awesome.
Yeah,
Legit.
that is.
That's a
This
Duck
is the
Hunt.
real deal.
I know. That's like, man.
1985.
Boom.
Boom. All right, so I think we'll go ahead
Some
and
ducks
do
and
one of our
ducks.
little exercises. And this is think, pair, square, share. Okay? Time's it. All right.
You're fine.
Not-for-profit will be here at about 7:30, which would be excellent because she's going to fold into our talk. Think, pair, square, share. So, for about a minute, I'd like you to think about the competition, your competition. So, my ask would be, tell me about the competition, and I want you to answer that in your head. And for those of you in the future, this is for you too. Think, pair, square, share. All right. We're going to kick it off with 1 minute. Go ahead and go. Tell me about the competition. About 10 more seconds. All right, I think that's about a minute. Now, so that was think. This was you thinking about the competition. The competition. The next step is pair. So with somebody nearby, I want you to tell them about the competition for about 30 seconds, and then we'll switch and we'll have the other side of the pair share about the competition, okay?
And before you do that, if you cannot share with who you came with.
Ah, yes. Thank you, Mr. Roger. That was something I intended to, I actually wanted to really go wild and have you guys all switch seats and get crazy, yeah. But no, we're not gonna do that. So you can keep your nice warm seat. You don't have to endure somebody else's butt. We're going to go with 30 seconds. Has everybody found their pair? Now again, like Mr. Raj said, not the person you came with. That's part of how we want to add value to you, right? We're here, this is like half a networking event, right? So, meet somebody. Okay, everybody ready? Raise your hand if you're not ready. I don't see any hands. Raise your hand if you're not ready. All right, 3, 2, 1, go. That's 30 seconds. You guys need another 30 seconds? I'm going to give you another 30 seconds. Ten more seconds and we're going to switch. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Switcheroo. All right, now the other person in the pair talk about the competition to the first person. That's okay. Yeah. These are guidelines. It's like Pirates of the Caribbean, right? No rules. Five more seconds. All right, let's wrap up the pair piece, right? We did pair. The next part is square. So each pair join with another pair. That's your square, right? Huh?
Now we gotta get up.
So try to combine. And this is where, for folks at home and folks in the future, if you have 4 people, then you would have done think individually and pair in pairs, and now we're doing squares, right? So now you have 4 people, and you're getting, whoa, this is a little risque over here, but you know, Roger works as a chair. All right, so are we ready for square? We'll do 2 minutes.
So what do we do?
So the next part is we'll do 2 minutes for the first pair to tell the other pair about their competition, some of the highlights, and then a couple minutes for the other pair to share with the other pair some highlights from their 2. Tell me about the competitions. And before we do that, I have something else in my pocket that I don't need, but it was fun to have another computer in my pocket to surprise you guys. So that one's just for fun. All right, you ready? Let's see.
We turned it on accidentally.
Was it an accident? You never know. Uh-oh. Speaking of accidents, what if we had a pool ball go rolling across the floor? Would that have been an accident or not? You never know. Usually when it hits the floor, it's an accident. And this is mine, by the way. It didn't come out of that pool table.
Okay.
This was also in my pocket. All right, here we go. So 2 minutes for the first set to share with the other set. Ready? Anybody not ready? Raise your hand if you're not ready. Yeah, I know. Okay, go. Highlights of the competition.
Higher value, 150, 200, 800, million. There are some of those out there, but they're even getting retired. Whatever. I got a deal ready.
Don't take it all.
Or find the right deal. Either one. If it makes sense, yeah. I mean, honestly, my deal is buy and hold. 5 or 10 years. Whatever. Something to read down there. I got it. 10, 20, 30, whatever, 100. Small, you know.
30 more seconds and then we'll switch. 30 more seconds and then we'll switch.
Fair and square. You might be able to make a better deal. I'll be looking for a truck. Come to you. Right?
Oh goodness. Mr. Riddle me this, riddle me that. All right. Are we ready to switch? We're going to have the other pair share with the first pair. 3, 2, 1. All right. Guidelines.
That's right.
I do lending. So I see some of you guys' competition from out of state. Recently, I've been a lot of out of state people. So, but also then I'm competing with lenders out of state as well, because that's what I'm familiar with. We were talking earlier, go through the here, so, yeah, but I mean, our competition,
Obviously, we're going to be crying next. We just got given tissues.
You never know.
I mean,
A photo of the place.
yeah.
30 more seconds.
Walk through time. Yeah, video calls. You have to do a walkthrough. They're paying more than local people. But even they have competition with each other.
Yeah.
They're really on the playground.
Yeah. So we have local guys that get together in order to like drive, whatever. I feel like
All right, let's wrap it up. So, we've done think, we've done pair, we've done square. What's next? Share. And I gave away all my candy, so you guys have it all now. And everybody answered at once, so that was awesome. Now, with share, depending on the size of your audience, that can be a handful of squares share a little bit. But since we have a fairly intimate audience, right, we can do a little share from each square. So, what are a highlight or two from Roger's group?
Mostly the fact that they feel like they're really just competing with themselves.
Ah, yes, you had Tao in your group, right? And she kicked off the competing with self. So a swimmer, I know a swimmer.
Yeah.
Maybe he competes with himself for the PR, the personal record. Tell me more.
And then with David, with the real estate part, it's not really about buying the house. It's about how can you make it the best that you possibly can with the least amount of money put into it. For me, well, and Megan, you know, she's competing also with herself rather than against anybody. And then Chris feels like he's in the pool of a bunch of people trying to find house because he's at that place where he doesn't have all the connections that us experienced investors have. You know, I get the phone call first, wait, my man over there. You know, so being in that competition, competing against all these different people that, you know, are you going to make the right offer? Are you going to make the right offer with the right, you know, contingencies or not contingencies, all that. And then for me, my competition, I was just going with, you know, my speaking and coaching and all that stuff. And most of my contemporaries or, you know, competitors, I guess, they give a lot, or they give less value for more money versus where I take less money for a lot more value.
Take less money for more value.
Yeah.
Interesting. Okay. That's pretty cool.
I hit everybody? All right.
Now, highlights, right? So he's not going into great depth on each person, but he's given us some highlights. Thank you, Roger. Let's see. How about the square in the back? What are some highlights from your discussion? And this is Wade, right?
Yes,
Wade, thank you.
Ray and I talked about how we've got competitors, hers are more in our office, mine are other inspectors, but then, and then with Madeline, talking about ignorance, because she's working on educating herself, making her the best teacher for her kids, because she's going to go do homeschooling, which is a big challenge.
So Wade, what would you say Madeline's competition is?
Ignorance.
Whoa.
That's your wife.
So
Her words, not mine.
she's not competing against other teachers, and she's not even competing against herself. What was it she said she's competing against?
Ignorance.
Continue, please, sir.
And then Toby, the last in our group, a bit of a spin on competing with self. He said it's mediocrity because there's a lot of competitors that have very similar products, and so it's about being the best company and the best service provider possible within the set of products that everybody's using. So similar. I mean, there's always variances, but can I get that? You said it's a fair assessment.
I mean, for me, it's more so on the client side and the mindset. Like, if you don't do business with me, it's because you're comfortable where you are.
Okay.
Right? So, if you see something more efficient or you see something that works better, it touches your goals better, but you don't do it, it's because you're in a place where fear is taking hold, where preconditioning is taking hold, where generational habits are taking hold. So in that situation, it's that the overwhelming forces of mediocrity, whether that's on the client side, within employees of the business, within myself, within teamwork, mediocrity is what we fight.
Mediocrity. I love it. And I wish I had a microphone. I hope you guys could hear that because it was awesome. That was great, man. So mediocrity. Any other highlights? Good on this one? All right. So got a couple more and a pile of pillows. That's interesting. Outside the box. You never know what you find here. You guys. And I said, yeah, all guys. So I didn't get that. This is guys and guys. Guy and gals. So
I really like what Toby had to say. I guess mine, I do lending, and there are a lot of other companies that are not very similar things. So try to find ways to provide value above and beyond that.
Provide value above and beyond that.
Yeah, to stand out. These guys need to share it. We're both investors,
So just
so
highlights.
with each other. So.
This guy right here, that's the competition. Yeah, okay. Any other highlights from this table?
Well, and Henrik also was talking about finding an edge, and an edge stand out.
Nice. So differentiation. Yeah. Little things to put you over, little things to make you different. Nice. Y'all hear that? If you buy from over here, you get a full tank of gas. Yeah. All right, thank you guys. And guy and gals, highlights from this table.
The three of us were pretty similar because we're business ourselves and along with ignorance, we said education because we have to educate people.
Wait a minute. Let me stop you right there. You're competing against education?
Uneducated.
Okay, sorry.
We have to educate. We have to educate. Yeah. Because, just like ignorance, because we have to explain to them, yes, you can find it cheaper, but you can't find it better. And we have to explain the process of why you have to pay a little bit more to get better, but why it's beneficial for you. So all three of us were dealing with that. And then Virgil is in missions, and he said that his mission field is mostly Muslim. And as an outsider, he was speaking with a gentleman that's Muslim that doesn't appreciate Christian. And he said, well, what's your stand on that? And he goes, Muslim is a community. And he goes, looking in on your community of Christian and the small group of it is, and there's so much tension there, or so much like they're competing against each other instead of being as a community. And it's kind of a slap. And we're like, oh my goodness. So
Roger, what's your word?
Whatever, collaboration.
Collaboration, interesting.
So that was ours.
Yeah.
Good job, you guys. All right. I ran out of stuff in that vest, so I went ahead and took that second vest off. How many of you even noticed that I had on two vests when I first started?
I didn't realize you took the one off.
Yeah, but nobody else noticed, right? One guy's already torn a card in half. One lady noticed that I had two vests on when I started. Okay, so that was fun. I hope that some guys at home did this too, and that you people in the future, because I'm like talking to the future, that you did this too. Let's see, a couple things. So we covered a C company that's competing with other C companies, and, you know, Pepsi and Coke, right? We started to talk about B companies, and Tao talked about competing against herself, and in my talk, that's a B company. And so, and we've even started to talk about C companies. And we'll kind of wrap back around to that. Some people threw out some things that I'll talk about just a little bit more. So before I mention my books, I love book recommendations. Roger and I were talking about this the other day. What are a couple of book recommendations from the audience with regard to this subject? Yes, ma'am.
The Go-Giver.
The Go-Giver. I think Roger went through a whole program based on The Go-Giver, right? So The Go-Giver, and do you guys know the author?
Bob Berg and
Bob Berg?
somebody else.
Bob Berg
I
and
never
somebody
met the
else.
other guy.
So Google The Go-Giver and Bob, and you'll probably find it.
Yes.
You guys in the internet.
The Red Book.
The Red Book.
The Red Book.
Okay. So the red one. And another book? At least one more before we move on. I say that, I'm not going to hold you all day. Or night, whatever.
7 levels of communication.
7 levels of communication. I see a couple of head nods. 7 levels of communication, book recommendation. I'm going to have to look into that one. I don't think I'm familiar with that.
Really good.
Little tilt there.
There you go.
And do you mind tilting it a little bit more? We're going to have Carla join us. So when you got the books in the frame, you'll have her.
Booyah.
Oh, yeah. 7 levels. Do you happen to remember the author by chance? If not, that's fine.
Michael Mayer.
Michael
Mayer. M-A-H-E-R.
M-A-H-E-R. Awesome. Thank you, Wade. I'm remembering some of the names. Okay. So, this book, The Inner Game of Tennis. Oddly enough, right? The Inner Game of Tennis. I'll read you a little bit from The Inner Game of Tennis, and it's by W. Timothy Galloway. With regard to this talk, this one little bit, and there's a chapter that talks about it, really kind of brings the point home. And this is going to kind of, it's a little bit funny, it's going to kind of get us to a B.5, right, on our way to A. So, this is a book about tennis, but it can be applied to anything. In true competition, no person is defeated. Both players benefit by their efforts to overcome the obstacles presented by the other. Like two bulls butting their heads against one another, both grow stronger and each participates in the development of the other. What do you guys think about that?
Iron sharpens iron.
Iron sharpens iron. Yeah.
What is somebody else doing that we can do, you know, that we are competing with, but we can take from each other?
Yeah.
To make our things better.
And I could go a little deeper, but for the sake of time, I'm going to move on. If I get extra time, I might come back around to it. There's some really cool thoughts in here. A lot of it's about tennis, but there's some stuff that's broadly applicable to competition. Really, really neat. Gets us up to B.5, right? B being like Tao or Roger, where, you know, if you're swimming and you're competing against yourself, you might be competing against other people, but what if you're Michael Phelps? Who are you competing against? So that's a B. And if you're trying to be the best version of yourself, then that's a B.
But you get better if you play against people that are better than you.
Yes. So you want the competition to be better than you so that you can improve. Or not necessarily better than you, but at least a formidable foe. Right? So that you can sharpen yourself with them. Right? Cloak and dagger. Or something. That didn't sound very cool.
No.
This little thing is just a letter opener. Thought I pointed with the iron, sharpening iron.
Yeah.
Didn't know if I was going to pull that out or not. Anyway, so I will open it up just a little bit more because you kind of touched on it. And I'll stick with the tennis analogy, you can fold it into whatever you like. If I'm seeking to be the best version of myself, Tao, that I can be, and I want a formidable foe to improve myself, right? Like the two bulls. So if I want to be the best version of myself, then I want them to bring it. I want them to play as hard against me as they can so that I can improve as much as I can. Now, what if they're thinking the same way?
Gotta level up.
You're pushing each other, you gotta level up. You gotta level up because your leveling up is your gift to them. Your bringing your full game is your gift to them. If they want you to play as hard as you can against them so that they can improve, then if you hold anything back, you're cheating them, right? And the reverse is true. So if you had two people competing against each other, or competing against themselves for the sake of the other, this is getting weird, right? Then you're going to see the fiercest competition that you will probably, almost. A is better. This is B.5. You're probably going to see some of the most fierce competition you've ever seen. But at the end, they're going to shake hands. They're going to be perfectly cordial because it was their gift to the other player, right? So that they could improve. All right. Woo! Ready for A. A lot of build-up. So this book is called Tribal Leadership, and it touches a little bit on an A-type company. And I've not ever found a book that combines all of these things that we're talking about very well. There's just a little bit in this book, and there's a little bit in that book, and I've heard other authors talk about it a little bit, but they kind of vacillate between traditional C-type competition, and they'll hit a little bit of B, and they'll hit just a snippet of A, and then for most of the book, they'll flop back to C, right? So I've not found a book that just, the whole book is like this. I'd love to write one sometime, or have somebody else write it for me. I'd love to see it exist, I'll say that. So, this book is called Tribal Leadership. We do the little peeking over the thing. And it is by Dave Logan, John King, and Hallie Fisher Wright. That last name is hyphenated. And I have a couple snippets from this book as we move into A. And to nod to some of our audience participants, when your competition is no longer a person or a business, and we're people, and a business is a business, so at B.5, it was still, even if it's yourself, it's still a business or a person. So keep that in mind. These authors say that they say, we believe this is the future of business. They talked to and in their terminology, in this book's terminology, this is a stage 5 company. There's stage 1, stage 2, stage 3, stage 4, and this was stage 5. And they found very few companies that were like this. Very, very few. I've got my tissues right. Okay. So their mission, their vision, their purpose, it becomes this noble cause, if you will. There is no, we're number one. You know, we beat Pepsi this quarter. Go Coke, right? None of that. There is, it's not pride. Here they say, it was almost a whisper, said like a prayer of thanksgiving. It's a mood we came to call innocent wonderment. This company, this particular stage 5 company, any company can be a stage 5 company, any individual can be a stage 5 individual. This place was called, well, it was a biotech firm, okay? And man, they were really living it. Here's what you've all been waiting for. When I say, tell me about the competition, these guys said, we're in competition with cancer. Not the other biotech firm, not themselves. So we're in competition with ignorance. We're in competition with hopelessness. We're in competition with bondage. This particular company, when asked to elaborate, the authors say, huh? No mention of a company? And they say, maybe our competitor is inflammatory disease, such as arthritis, obesity, Parkinson's. And the authors were not happy, right? Because they're wanting to learn about competition. In fact, our 4-stage model couldn't explain what we were hearing. We might be in competition with, ultimately, I'm reading from the book, death, human disease. I guess we're not really targeting starvation and war. It makes me think of all the human diseases we'll beat in the next few years. So something like that, something not necessarily tangible, not just I'm gonna sell 100 houses this year, not something like that. That's an A company. And I would say they're probably few and far between. And with that, well, before I go to the next step, what are some thoughts?
Whenever you and I sat down and talked, excuse me, whenever you looked at me, so hopelessness is one of the things I'm trying to combat, right? Because there's so many people that don't know who they are, they don't know what they're called to do, they don't know what their purpose on this world is to do. And if you know that, then you know, I mean, life is exponentially better if you know. And unfortunately, most people don't.
Thank you, Roger. So if you don't know why you're here, then you're hopeless. And so if I ask Roger to tell me about the competition, he might start to talk to me about hopelessness. And so one way to help you figure out what your competition is to think about the antithesis of your purpose or vision or mission. And that starts to get you thinking about, what's the opposite of the reason my company exists? And that can kind of start to help you narrow it down, right? To get to that intangible idea that you're competing against. Thank you, Roger. All right, now, good. We're doing good on time. Carla is representing our charity today, and she's going to tell us a little bit about Spay Experts Charities. Carla, will you please come join us on the stage? So, this is a little bit different in that we're going to do it almost like an interview, and rather than have Carla just tell you, hey, I'm Carla, I work for Spay Experts, and we do good things for animals, and okay, now Josh can come and talk. I'm going to fold her into the talk, right? So, Carla, tell me a little bit about Spay Experts Charities and Spay Experts Plus, because there's two different organizations, and they're under the same roof, and Spay Experts Charities is the charity arm. So a little bit about Spay Experts Plus and a little bit about Spay Experts Charities and how they work together.
Okay, so Spay Experts is a spay and neuter clinic. We do spay and neuter, and we also do vet care, affordable vet care at the other end of our building, basic vet care, I guess, if you will. And the charity part of it, we do rescues, shelters, a lot of work for people who cannot afford to have their pets spayed or neutered. There are programs that help subsidize the money, and we work with those to do those surgeries. So we have 2 surgery rooms, one for the charity, one for the public. But we offer affordable vet care for the public too. So the rescues and shelters pay a little bit less than the public does, but it's still very affordable.
Absolutely. And I think Dr. Jake was, well, Dr. Boyer was telling me that occasionally, and you know, don't tell anybody else this, and everybody else on the internet, don't tell anybody else this. Occasionally, if somebody comes in and there's something life-threatening or that the pet really, really needs, and the patron just can't afford it.
Yeah.
Sometimes the charity, I mean, imagine, you know, that your family member, right? Because so often it's at that level, needs this life-saving thing that for Dr. Boyer, it's not really that big a deal, but it costs a little bit of money and you can't afford it. Well, sometimes Spay Expert charities will say something along the lines of, could you afford this much? And then they'll subsidize. So that's another little piece that not everybody hears about. So don't tell anybody.
Yeah, we try to offer it affordable for everyone, so we get a lot of people who haven't been to the veterinarian in years because they just simply can't afford to go.
Yeah.
So we get a lot of that, and a lot of them can afford to take care of their pets, they just can't afford thousands of dollars.
Thousands of dollars.
But they can afford a few hundred to take care of their pets for
Yeah.
surgery or $50 for vaccines.
So going forward, we're going to kind of combine things, and we're just going to say Spay Experts, because Spay Experts Plus and Spay Experts Charities work together. And so just to kind of simplify and to keep from going back and forth, I want to talk a little bit more about Spay Experts and the competition. So, Carla, tell me about the competition.
Well, I guess the competition would be all the other veterinarian clinics around, but we're kind of a new version of a veterinarian, doing things affordably.
So how much would it cost to get full set of vaccines at Johnny Smith's Vet Care?
Other places can be up to hundreds of dollars. A lady came in the other day and it was going to be $200 per cat to get
$200 per cat. Wow. To get them vaccinated. That's a basic thing that you ought to do if you've got a pet, right? Vaccinations, a couple $100. Now, if that lady had come to Spay Experts, how much would she pay?
It's
$50.
for a full set.
Okay.
$35 if you're getting surgery, so you get a discount.
So it's even
surgery.
less expensive if you're doing a spay or neuter?
Yes, because the animal's asleep and it's really easy to give them vaccine.
Yeah.
It's extra $15 for the
Yeah,
spots, right?
they're not
Yeah,
moving, so
that's
it's a lot
right.
easier to target.
A non-moving target skeet shooter. Yeah, let's see. So, what's the difference? Why are some places charging $200 and Spay Experts is charging $30 or $50?
I think in our industry, it's just gotten out of control and they just, the prices.
Does it cost them? Does it cost them 5 or 6 or 7 times more than you guys to do it?
Maybe in some cases,
Yeah.
but I wouldn't think always. But what I do is I'm constantly looking for the best price ever. So
For the patron?
yes, so for every single thing we buy in that clinic, I'm price shopping.
Yeah. Let me think for a second. What's the mission, Carla, in your words? What's the mission, right? Because we want to think about these things as we move toward being an A-type company. What's the mission of Spay Experts, in your words?
To provide affordable vet care.
Period. Dot. To as many people as they can. and pets. And in your words, Carla, what is the vision of spay experts?
To do that with excellence and kindness and, well, our core value.
Yeah.
Those are our core values, and efficiency. So we want to.
Like you said, you're shopping around, you're trying to figure out how you can make it less expensive.
Yes, because we pass that savings along to the client as much as we can.
And what is it that spay experts hopes to do? What is it that you hope to change?
Well, we have to educate our clients a lot about spay and neuter. I don't know, let's talk about spay and neuter, Josh. Totally our industry, we want to set the standard, a new standard for veterinarians in vet care to provide affordable vet care for everyone.
So if you guys
Lots of pets out there.
are rocking it, and if you, I don't know if any of you have ever been to spay experts, but it is not a chop shop. It is awesome. It's clean. Kindness is one of their core values. It's super nice. It is way different than what anybody might expect, and costs like a quarter of what you'd find somewhere else, right? And why are the other people charging 4 times as much? And how can we change that, right? Because to change that industry, you're starting with one location, and people are like, it costs a quarter of the other places, it's gotta be terrible. No, wait, this is incredible. How are you doing this?
Yeah, they're very impressed when they get them.
Yeah, and then, so now the other competition is like, oh, the vet places that are around spay experts are starting to, how long can we keep up these high prices before people start to realize that it's not costing us this much? We've got a 100 to 300% markup, whereas spay experts has a 20 to 30. And I don't know, don't tell anybody else this either. Spay experts is still profitable. They're making 20+%. Yeah, charging a quarter of what other people are charging. Wow. Okay, so Carla and Jake are trying to change their industry. All right, Carla, tell me about the competition.
I think mostly it's just greed for money. You can see less clients charge a lot more. You're done.
No, that was Carla's word. I was just reminding her. We talked about it earlier, and she came up with it all on her own. So
well, that's all I can come up with.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm not sure why.
The antithesis of the way you guys are trying to do business?
And our company grew by quite a bit last year. So
She says quite a bit. Doubled last year, doubled the year before, doubled the year before that.
so we're doing well.
All right. I was really pleased with how that worked in. I didn't necessarily intend that originally, but because we were talking about A, B, and C type companies, and Carla happened to be the charity that we wanted to bring in, Carla being a representative of spay experts on the management team there. And so we kind of walked through it, right? And the competition for Jake and Carla is greed, and they're trying to change their industry. So if you guys are interested in helping, there's a little information on these things. The bottom 3 are with regard to spay experts, and then the middle 2 are a little bit more about me. Oh, we'll get more than just one on each page. And the top one is Mr. Roger. So if you're interested in helping him combat hopelessness, he has another business entity called Equipped Leaders, and they are combating hopelessness internationally. You guys can help out if you choose. Oh, let's see. Thank you very much, Carla. And Carla, for your efforts, for your time, for coming out. I knew Mr. Jake is, and he doesn't necessarily tell everybody this, so don't tell anybody. Don't tell anybody, internet.
The internet stays exactly where that phone is.
That's right. He prefers not to have an open flame in the building. So we got the little heater, candle warmer thingy for space experts.
Nice.
Thank
like
you.
to keep it smelling.
Yeah. Because sometimes. Thank you, Carla. Have a good night. And we're wrapping up. I think I've got all of 1 minute. Hey, pretty good, right? Yeah. So hopefully, you know, we talked about a C-type company, we talked about a B-type company, we talked about an A-type company. A C-type company could be something like Pepsi or Coke or McDonald's and
Chick-fil-A.
Chick-fil-A, Burger King.
No, they're not.
Okay. And then a B-type company could be something like Harley Davidson or Chick-fil-A or, that's enough. And then if we are looking at a A-type company, then that example from the book, right? The medical company that's competing against cancer, or even Equipped Leaders that's competing against hopelessness, right? And I would encourage you all to, if nothing else, just think about that. Think about some of the things that you talked about with your squares. And if you haven't already, please exchange contact information with people in your square, because that's part of the value of this gig. Let's see. Finally, I would encourage you all to think about why you're doing what you're doing, right? I could go through a quick little exercise where I have you stand up, sit down, stand up, sit down, stand up, sit down, stand up, sit down. And then I say, okay. At that point, people stop standing up because you do it like 7 times and it gets ridiculous. And say, and people start asking, why are we doing this? And you say, that's the point. Why are you doing this? If a billionaire were sitting across the street with binoculars and counting each time you were willing to do that, and you needed $5,000 to get new teeth for your daughter, and he's going to pay you $100 for every time you stand up and sit down. And by the way, he's a billionaire, so he's not going to stop when you get to 5,000. If you want to keep going, he's going to keep going. How many of you are going to stand up and sit down and stand up and sit down until you can't do it anymore because you know why you're doing what you're doing? All right? And because we were out of time, you guys didn't actually have to stand up and sit down and stand up and sit down. So I'll leave you with that. Joshua James, Torrens Veritas, which means blood of truth. If you guys are interested, I think my LinkedIn page is on the one of the little QRs.
Good deal. Josh, thank you so much.
Thank you.
Absolutely.
So who learned something?
I need to know if there's more stuff in his pockets.
Oh, yes, this is a green ball. It's not the same as the, no, it's just a little squishy one. You caught it. She caught it. What else is in my pockets? Let's see. Couple of phones.
Whenever he was talking to my son Monday morning,
Third phone.
he was asking, different things to Titan. And it's like, hey, do you want to set this thing on fire?
Got the
You
cue
know?
ball. Or the light ball. Yeah.
So it's like the ultimate fanny pack, just invest version.
That's right.
Ah. Nobody can see that.
Come on. Can you guys see the flame? Yeah. Okay, let's see. Try to do it. Come on. You'll have to come and see me next time.
There you go.
get to see what my Zippo trick was.
Like
oh well.
We put on the hand and yes. So, guys, thank you so much for coming. If you want to have any time to sit down with Josh and meet with him one-on-one, I promise you will be very blessed to do so. And like I said, you blow my mind every single time I sit down and talk, man. So we have this thing where I talk 1 week and then he talks 1 week. So it's a give and take that we do.
Yeah.
Thank you for coming. And guys, please feel free, hang out, talk, socialize a little more. Just clean up your stuff. So that's helpful. So
Save it from a lawsuit.
yeah. All right. Thank you, Facebook, for showing up.